Yes.
Well, unfortunately, this just muckies the water. So put it under integers, please. And we are doing multiplying / dividing. Multiplying / dividing of integers. One calm, cool, collective sigh of relief. Write down these examples here. -10 times -5. I don't know, 10 times -5. -10 times 5, and just 10 times 5. Don't let your adding and subtracting thoughts rule your mind, because that has nothing to do with multiplying. Okay? It has nothing. When you multiply by positive and negatives, it doesn't matter what number is bigger or any of that garbage there. You just have to remember this simple little rule. Okay? If there are an even number of negative signs, your answer will be positive. And if that is the case, boys and girls, guess what happens if there is an odd number of negative signs? An odd number, don't worry, I'll answer my own questions, of negative signs means your answer is negative. Really, if you go back and think about the whole double negative thing in English, right? If you don't not understand something, you actually, this is your part, if you don't not understand something, you actually understand it. Does that make any sense? Feel free to say no, or don't bother me. Oh, good, somebody did. So really, all you're doing is looking at this. How many negative signs do you see here? 2. That's an even number. An even number means it's going to be positive. These multiply like normal. 5 times 10 is 50. How many negative signs? 1. 1 is an odd number. 1 means odd numbers means you get an odd answer. How many negative signs? 1. It's odd. Odd is negative. How many negatives? I guess you could say 0, but that's just 5 times 10 is 50. You've done that forever. There's no negative there. You kind of get the gist. It has nothing to do with what number is bigger or smaller. It's not like adding. Now, don't get that confused with adding, because children, if I have a -5 and I add a -10 to it, you can't use the rules of multiplication and say those are 2 negatives that my answer is going to be positive. No, you're taking a negative number and adding more negatives to it, you end up with a bigger negative number. That's adding and subtracting. This is not what we're doing here. But don't, people get those so confused all the time. Now watch this. To go back to what you did there, make it relate to today's lesson. If you have -1 to the 20th power, feel free to write all those negative ones out. Or, Sarah Grace, what do you suppose your answer is? No, you're just guessing. You gave me both. You said -1 and 1. Which one is it? The collective gasp of horror. Let's think about this, Sarah. If I wrote out 20 negative ones multiplied by each other, which I don't think I'll take the time to do, how many negative signs would you have there? Which is odd or even?
Even.
So an even number of negative signs means my answer is?
Negative.
Well, wait, you've now extinguished 3 of your 4 choices and none of them were right. Let's go back to the notes here. Look, if there are an even number of negative signs, your answer will be positive. So the answer to this is a positive 1. It's just a simple 1. If I would have put this up there, Sarah Grace, my answer would be negative 1. Correct. So how about this? Negative 6 times negative 2 times negative 1. The first thing when you see this, you should look at this and say, okay, my answer is going to be positive or negative? Negative. There's 3 negative signs there. 6 times 2 times 1 is 12. And unless something confuses you on this, what about this? Negative 5. How many negatives do you see there? 2, which means my answer is going to be
Positive.
okay. Please understand and know a subtraction sign is a negative sign. Don't get those confused. Subtracting and negatives, all the same deal. Now, what are they going to ask? You ask?
What are they going to ask? We ask.
Well, they'll give you something like this. How about a negative 3 cubed? Negative 3 cubed. Caleb, positive or negative?
Negative.
Why?
Oh, yeah. Because there's an odd number.
That's right, because you got negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Odd number, 3 times 3 times 3 is? Somebody? 27. Or, oh wait, let's try fractions. What about this? Negative 3 over negative 4. If you had all that, what would that all simplify down to? Anybody? How many negatives?
3.
So my answer is going to be negative or positive?
Negative.
Just a negative 3/4. Or, and by the way, this is the same as for division. If you have a negative 60 divided by 5, by the way, you don't need those parentheses. Negative 60 divided by 5, negative 60 divided by 5, it's all the same. My answer is going to be positive or negative? Negative. 1 negative. 1 negative. Negative what? Negative 12. Negative 12. Negative 12. All those. Do you think this will be hard or easy?
It's not hard. I'll try to keep it. Yeah, just confusing me right now, but
one last thing there. X squared equals 100. Because of what you just learned, unfortunately, you've opened up a whole new can of confusing worms. What times what gives you a positive 100? You get 10 times 10, but also negative 10 times negative 10. Correct? So technically, when you're given this problem here, you actually have to say that x is both positive 10 and negative 10, technically. Usually you just take the positive answer, but it is positive 10 or negative 10. And if you really want to be mathematical, rather than writing positive 10, negative 10, sometimes you'll see this sign. Have you ever seen the plus or minus? Just say yes.
Yes.
yeah. Sure.
If you see the plus or minus sign, that's what this means. You could either use positive 10 or negative 10 as your answer. That wasn't too bad, did you think? You, by the way, let's do one more. You will be confused. That's just the way it goes in 7th grade math. I think I mentioned that it wasn't that easy. Caleb, what do you think? Lots of time left or not? awkward glance at the clock. Hey, what's up with that? I don't notice on sort of thing. Negative 3x times 2x minus 4. Here we go. Practical applications of what we just learned there. If you use the distributive property there, what are you going to get? Cassandra, if you multiply this out, distributive property-wise, what am I going to get? What do I get if I multiply this times this? Multiply that times that. Well, first thing you got to decide is it going to be minus or plus? Plus or minus? So add positive or negative? Right. One negative between the two of them means it's going to be negative. It's going to be 3 times 2 is 6, and I'm going to get x times x, which is
1.
x times x is x squared. That's my first term, and then I have to multiply this times that second one, which is going to give me what? How many negative signs? This is negative 3x, that's a negative 4. So subtraction is the same as a negative. How many negatives, Caleb? Negative 3x minus 4, negative 4, negative 3x. How many negatives?
Well,
2.
2. 1, 2. 1, 2. I understand where you're going. You're thinking this is 3 negatives. No, it's not 3 negatives. 1 negative for a total of 2 negatives. 3 times 4 is 12, and you have the x there. Emma?
How did you get minus 6x to the square?
Because this negative, 1 negative gives me the negative. 3 times 2 gives me the 6. X times x is x squared. And that's the same place where this x came from, because this negative 3 has an x to it, I have to put that x over there. Negative 3 times 4. Which, by the way, so think about this. This just came to my mind. Lest you think I'm not sitting somewhere very important. On Sunday, the Bears play who? The Vikings. Chad Beebe, believe it or not, I can guarantee you, Chase, that Chad Beebe sat in that chair. I can guarantee he sat in all these chairs because he would have switched spots just like all of you did. Chad Beebe has sat. Hey, right now, everybody touch your little plastic on your chair because Chad Beebe, playing for the NFL, has sat in that chair. Guaranteed. What? He's on the Vikings.